And from whatever I've heard, culture is nothing new. We've been talking about vision, mission, values for the last 50, 60, 100 years, since the time the private or the public enterprise have existed. It's nothing new. It's changing. Well, this was the topic probably in the 1960s, 70s, 80s. It's the same thing. It's changing. Of course it's changing. New generation is coming. It's the same thing. When my dad grew up and your parents grew up, they told their parents that generation B is a different generation. It's the same thing. And my son, who's 21-year-old, says the same thing to me, you're a different generation. Of course we are different. Now what is interesting to note is I see in my company people at 30 years and 25 years and 20 years, I mean 20 years, give or take, fresh MBAs, let's say, even with 5 years of difference, so somebody who's a 25-year-old or 26-year-old with about 3-4 years corporate experience, and somebody who joins fresh as a management training, so these 3-4 years experience people tell the youngsters, oh, you are a different generation. All right? Now that's really scary when the difference of 4 or 5 years or 4 years or so is a different generation today. That's scary. So therefore, it's a probably, though it's old wine in new bottle, culture, leadership, talent, generation gap, all has been talked about for the last probably few decades now. All has been written about for the last few decades. It's nothing new. Right? So it's just about presenting. We have to keep our job. Come on, HR people, we've got to keep our job, so we've got to talk about different things again and again. So it's just talking about different things, to me, honestly. So since we're talking about future or new trends in organization culture, there is a very interesting video which talks about future of the culture, right? And I thought I must present that video. Nitin, I will probably need your help now, right, for the video. So I think this video, about 3 minutes or so, will sum up pretty much what we have heard from our eminent panelists over here. Though my disagreement on that would be a couple of points that were made, that HR can change culture or HR has to do something about culture. HR is a part of the culture. We probably can smell the rat for sure. We must smell the rat and we must bring it up. I work with a lot of family entrepreneurs, a lot of large organizations, and when I meet them, most of these entrepreneurs, I carry a water bottle with me. Most of them blame their people, their leadership, my people are bad, this is the issue, the new generation, and I carry the water bottle and I say, Mr. Entrepreneur or Mr. Leader or Mr. CEO, just a second, just hold on. Look at this bottle. Where is the neck of the bottle? On the top. Well, bottlenecks are always at the top. You can keep blaming people, keep blaming HR, keep blaming everybody else, but maybe Mr. Entrepreneur, Mr. CEO, Mr. Founder, Mr. Managing Director, Mr. Chairman, well, you're the problem. All right? So, well, there are the brave ones buy my arguments, there are some who don't, and we don't work with them anymore anyway. So, this video will give you a perspective, a peek into what is happening in the world, the Uber world, so to say. All right? You'll be surprised. I'm actually working with some youngsters. They've called a company called Hop Jobs. As HR people, we'll always think hopping job is not right. Right? You must be in the same job. If you hop a job too often, it's bad. But Hop Jobs is a new company which is talking about, yeah, you can hop job. What's the big deal? So this is a company formed by some 20, 21-year-olds, by the way. So Nitin, over to you. A quick peek in the video, 3 minutes, and they'll give it all that you want to know about future of culture.
Future Workplace presents Katia's first day. Today is my first day of work at Pixel-X. I found the perfect job through a new app that lets me define the job I want, identify the companies I most admire, and where I want to live. Then it pre-qualified me for an opening at Pixel-X. I checked out the company on Glassdoor.com, The Job Crowd, and JobBeehive. These global employer rating sites gave me everything I needed to know about Pixel-X's culture and company purpose, all in sync with mine. Now it's my first morning of orientation, and after I check in on the retina scanner to confirm my identity, I upload my personal learning plan and download all the apps I need to get started onto my smartwatch. The next step in orientation is to put on a HoloLens and play Pixel-X Shadow Spectator, an augmented reality game that lets me job shadow a product initiative leader to learn about the company's operations and its strategic direction. All other materials about Pixel-X are on the company's collaboration portal and on its gamified learning hub, which awards me points and badges as I complete my learning programs. Now, on to the important part, selecting my manager. There are a series of presentations delivered via HoloPresence from 5 possible managers, none of whom have titles because Pixel X has moved to being a flat organisation. The managers profile the projects they are working on, as well as their commitment to mentoring and coaching, collaboration, work-life flexibility, and multiple ways to learn and grow on the job. Before making my selection, I also check out how each manager is rated on Rate Your Manager, an internal leader rating tool. Voila! I just made my choice, and I'm ready to get started at my new and exciting role. The 2020 workplace is here today.
Well, I guess that's something. Thank you very much. Just get the presentation back. So, well, most of the people in this room are going to experience the 2020 workplace, which is just 6 years down the line, or 4 years down the line, actually. Some of which you're already experiencing. I'll put it up. Thank you. All right. So here are a few questions, people. That's the reality that's going to happen very soon. The fact is that you hire new people, and we already heard from the panelists that people do check you on Glassdoor, people do check what's going on in the company before you join. All right, so there are all kinds of things that are happening when, and this is not about the payment. It's not about the salary. They don't check about salary. They check about the culture. How have people been inside? What are they talking? People who have exited, what are they talking? So they're checking on culture. They're not checking on compensation because they know they will get the compensation that they deserve anyway. So a few questions. I said I was going to raise some questions. Post the video. I mean, I don't know, whatever your feelings are. Are you feeling concerned, excited, disbelief, or whatever, interested in this future of culture? Here are a few questions. Till today, have you ever seen, or in the history, have you ever seen enterprise where you have 5 generations working? And I know you raised this point a while back. 5 generations, from baby boomers to millennials. All right. Well, in my family, we've got 4 generations working. My dad is 79, works. My son, 21, works. Right. And we've got a couple of generations in between me and my brother that works. Right. And from what my dad speaks, 79-year-old ex-public sector, and now the last 15 years, he runs his own company. His definition of culture, his definition of running a company, his definition of leadership, to my son's definition of leadership, well, I see some difference, but not a vast difference, I must tell you. Right. There is an experience and there's a knowledge. That's the difference. But I don't see, they still, my dad and my son, they still have a very healthy conversation. Very healthy conversation. And I'm assuming this is happening everywhere. As long as you create that environment, I'm assuming this is happening everywhere. It's not just my family. Have you, all those who've been working for several years, never has been a generation which entered the workplace where they were much more advanced than the employer. Generally, you learn technology at employer. I remember when I joined my first company, I learned computers at my employer. Right? I didn't know what computers were, and I learned on a 286 machine way back in the 80s. Right? That's the new world we're talking about. Never has it been possible to acquire, use, seamlessly integrate talents across the world. We're talking about a global world. Also, the technology. Never has technology made it so possible to connect anywhere, anyone, anywhere, asynchronously, right, as a collaborator. Well, that's what we're talking about, the technology. And one of the panelists talked about technology. And never, now this is an interesting piece, never, and this is what I would say probably a small differentiator, never before the society has put as much pressure on organizations to be socially responsible. They were capitalist, profit-making organization. Today, everybody talks about CSR. Right? The future of HR is 4 things. Right? A future of culture, or whatever you talk about culture. It's 4 things that I see, and that's what we talk about. We see a lot of articles, books, people who've been talking, the workplace for 2020, they've been talking about the 4 things, simple. We are going to have organizations which have multiple generations. I work with a large family company, very large real estate infra enterprise, which has the chairman at 77, right? And the younger generation just entered, qualified from some business school in London, right? Who's just entered, right? 4 different generations working. We will have organizations like that. As HR, we've got to figure out how do we integrate these generations. A lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. Right? Social media, we know what's happening. We're all onto that, right? The Twitters and the Facebooks, that's the Glassdoors and whatnot. We are onto that. That's the new generation. That's the new organization. Globalization is in here. People work across worlds, absolutely across worlds. Right? And technology, we've heard enough about this. To me, this is what is shaping future of organization culture. I know we are running out of time, so I'm going to stop here and leave it to the audience to ask questions to the panelists and whomsoever you like. Right? But we know the new organization or the new future or the new culture is going to be here. Though I go back to my point that it is not new. It is old wine. We've been talking about it for the last 3, 4, 5 decades. Right? But yes, there is a changing trend because of technology and globalization, which has made the world different. So that's, I rest my case. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ashish. I think fascinating crystal ball into the future, 4 years or maybe even sooner. I think some of these elements are already happening in organizations around the world. And so the workplace as we know it will be very different very soon. We have a few minutes in which to take some questions from the audience. So if there's someone who wants to ask questions from anybody on the panel, please raise your hands, please.
Somewhere I read one quotation, no? Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
So culture eats what for lunch? Let's see. Very quickly some questions.
Any questions from the audience?
They know it all.
Okay, there's one question at the back.
My name is Vinay. I work for a company called Radico Khaitan. What I see here is, a lot of use of technology and technology interface with people. So, are we losing on the human touch aspect of it? Can a mother's lab be replaced by some technology someday? Is that touch getting lost in this war of technology which is going on? I would like to know your views on that.
Who would like to take it from the panel?
Oh, I don't mind saying. Okay, I think I've got a speaker on my, I can use that, yeah. So I can very quickly, this is very interesting, I can very quickly share a very interesting research by London School of Business. Over in the 90s and 2000s, they did a research, and they were talking about, we talked about, essentially it was leadership research, but they talked about, in the last 100 years, leadership research was always all about what should leaders do, what do leaders want. They turned the turtle, they said, let's look at the followers this time. What do really followers want? Because we're living in a different generation, different world. Let's look at followers. To cut the long story short, one of the most primary needs they found in the followers is the need of community, need of belongingness, need of touch. Very interesting. So whatever technology might do, and this research is titled in a very beautiful HBR article, which also became a book, one of the best-selling leadership book today, and one of the, I think the second highest downloaded HBR article. The research article in the book goes like this: why should anyone be led by you? They ask the leaders a tough question, right? Most of us say leaders are leaders, and leaders are, because they have a title, they should be leaders. They ask the question, tough question to leaders, that you must look at the mirror and ask this question to yourself: why should you be the leader? Right? And therefore, they look at the followers' perspective, and they say community, which therefore Facebook becoming the second largest country in the world because people want their touch and feel. They want this. So the touch and feel will not go come what may. You want your mother's lap, you want your wife's shoulder or your girlfriend's shoulder, whichever way it works. Right? You certainly will want that. Technology is only enabling it to make things faster, easier, reach out easier. To me, that's my perspective.
See, misuse of technology is very dangerous. I can give you two anecdotes. One, very old parents could not go to US for their witnessing their son getting married to an American. So they saw through the video conferencing and so on. This is fine. There was somebody in my real life, I got a shock of my life, 4-year-old child has died. That funeral was taken videograph and then recorded. What nonsense is this?
Absolutely.
Where is the value system?
Absolutely.
So don't misuse technology. That human touch is very, very important. Yesterday, Economic Times, they said, see the cartoon of Economic Times yesterday, you will laugh.
Yep. Thank you. One more question to the lady here.
So I'm Professor Monica Saxena, Indus Business Academy. My question is to Mr. Kaushal. So you talked about lean and thin organization. You gave an example of bank in which 4 girls were working and they handled everything very efficiently, whereas in a different setup, public sector, it was a different scene. So my question is that in the race of decreasing cost, increasing efficiency, focusing more on productivity, what about the employability factor, especially in a country like India, where still in the recent report, more than 44 million people are still unemployed?
I think employability, it will not have a adverse effect on employability. Because the point is, industry grows. Size will be bigger size industry, bigger organization, different companies coming out of that, this thing. And then more employment. You start thinking like that. More profit, more, you can have bigger organizations, more employees. You start, this can be a positive thinking on this, rather than a negative thinking that because of this, our job gets reduced. That type of thinking should not be there. It should be a positive.
Good efficiency, actually.
Last question.
My question is Mr. Thru. So you said periodically smell the rat. I was a corporate HR and organizational development specialist earlier. Currently, I'm in learning development organization. So I want to ask, there are feedbacks, there are suggestion patties, you can say, but what else could be done to smell the rat? I mean, what are the processes which we can do?
See, one is...
He said use the consultants, by the way.
No, I said use the consultant, but you should know when consultant should be requested to move out also. All of us do dipstick surveying.
Yeah.
And we are carried away with the final number.
Right.
What I look at it, what is the extreme left and extreme right.
Okay.
And then segment it. And then employee satisfaction index can be top percentile, 90th percentile or whatever it is. But if you look at age bracket and qualification brackets, segment-wise if you go, some of the people are feeling that performance appraisal system is not fair. And you look at which section and which kind of people, then you address the issue. Quite often we are flooded with a lot of information. Unless we know how to convert information into insight, you cannot take action, number one. Number two, I was working for a small, not small, for a short period, one of the large hospital chain. They give local anesthesia. So quite often we give total body anesthesia thinking that issues are big. So local anesthesia will work.
That's a nice one.
So the question is that there are a lot of...
I think we are running out. One last
Got it, thank
the
you.
lady behind there.
I think we have not touched upon. There are a lot of mergers and acquisition happening. So I belong to a company which is into semiconductor, and we do a lot of acquisition. So a lot of culture comes when you acquire a new company. And we have been talking a lot about culture. How, it sounds very vague, but how do we actually imbibe this, my DNA in those companies which we acquire? And I'm talking about acquisitions, and I think it's happening in all the industries now. Thank you.
It's true. The mergers and acquisitions are going bigger and global and more complex, and suddenly employees are challenged by how do we look at merging the value system, merging the culture. There is a case study even in the report that we have released wherein one company who believed low cost was their strategy and the other company believed high standard was their priority. Now both of them are looking at each other and like, how are we going to merge? So, but again, it's the ownership of the CEOs to see that they do enough investment to create a new vision for the organization, to make it clear for every component or every business to understand what is that, what they are driving, what's the culture, and invest in it so that everybody within the organization understand how the future is going to look like, what's expected out of them, and then keep metrics and processes in place to balance it all out and not overwhelm any side of the two companies who are coming together. So it's definitely the CEO charter and definitely a need for active involvement to see that nothing goes off the table but remains on the table and is taken care of while the companies are merging.
Can I just add a quick point to what Sonali just said? So, I mean, I personally feel a lot of things you can just go back to basics. A lot of things in life, in the organization life. To me, merger acquisitions is, and I've been doing some work with several companies, is going back to arranged marriage system in the country. When a woman gets married and moves to a new family, you move from one culture of your family to a new culture of a different family. What happens, what helps you to assimilate or get integrated in the new culture is the entire family environment. It's not just your husband. It's the in-laws, the grandparents, everybody in the family in the new family where the new culture is, assimilates you, integrates you in the new culture. To me, CEO is certainly one of the aspects, as Sonali said, but it is the new family. The acquiring family of of this company should look at as to how do we integrate the new bride into our system. To me, a lot of things in life, honestly, life, go back to basics. That's it. Okay. Divorce rates were much lesser when arranged marriages happened. Right?
Okay. Thank you very much to my panelists, and I think very rich perspectives shared by everyone, and thanks for the audience for your questions. And I think I'd just like to summarize all the various things we talked about. I took 4 things away that what's going to drive it, and I put it in terms of 4 C's, keeping with the term of culture. I think first was change. We talked about globalization, job roles changing, flexibility in workforce, different generations coming together. So the workforce and the work environment is changing at a rate which has never been seen before. Second was one of choice. That is my second C, which is choice. Choice in terms of your customers, your employees, your stakeholders, partners. There's a lot more choice. Earlier that was probably not the case. As Mr. Kaushal said, the bank was there and you didn't have a choice but to go to that cumbersome bank, right? Third is connectedness. We talked a lot about the role of technology, social media, and how that is allowing everyone to be much more connected, creating much more transparency in organization culture. And the fourth I took away was conscience. We talked about social responsibility, values, commitment to a broader purpose in society. So I think the 4 C's I take away in terms of what is going to drive culture: change, choice, connectedness, and conscience. Thank you very much for your time, and I think it's time to proceed for lunch.
Oh, one more session.
Now we would like to present mementos to all the dignitaries as a token of appreciation.
I request Dr. M.Y. Ali from Engineers Private Limited to present memento to Mr. Suvojoy Sen Gupta, Partner McKinsey & Company.
Now I request Dr. Divya Kirti Gupta, Senior Professor, Indus Business Academy, to present memento to Mr. J.S. Kaushal, Director Personnel, Central Warehousing Corporation.
I request Ms. Jyoti Nair, Associate Director, Lovely Professional University, to present memento to Mr. A. Thiru, President HR, JK Organization.
I request Mr. Vinay Kaushik, Vice President HR, Samsung, to present memento to Ms. Sonali Dua, Global Clients Relationship Leader, Deloitte Consulting.
I request Mr. Vinay Padro, AVP HR, Radico Khaitan, to present memento to Mr. Ashish Arora, Founder and Managing Director, HR NXE.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we commence our second session based on